Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Creator Clash number 2. We thought we were just going to pick you out of your misery because that weather wasn't going too great then. Let's be honest. It wasn't going great.
I go work for production. Jordan was just like, all right, chat's not really doing it on this one. Let's go get some magic on the screen instead, which is hilarious. All right.
Word was hard. Word was hard.
The Jordan roast is great, by the way. Always 10 out of 10.
It is good. Things we only get to hear it in our ears as well. So randomly we'll start giggling and then was like losing their minds or something. I don't know. But we will be losing our minds with our next feature match. Absolute powerhouses in the game of Magic going head to head. See there, Mr. Aspiring Spike versus Reed Duke, ladies and gentlemen, in round number 2 of Creator Clash number 2. So tell me what decks they're playing in.
All right, so basically, Reed and Spike, they have a very, very veteran history playing Modern. So they've basically taken their Modern decks and they've brought it into Timeless. Now, Reed is playing Golgari Yawgmoth. I'm not really going to go into that one too much. You'll see that there was a copy of Natural Order in Reed's hand. Spike, he's cooking with the sauce, though. He's got that Jeskai Surveil deck. So any aspiring Spike fans, this is where you are probably familiar with what Everett's been doing, right? He has sort of concocted this monstrosity that includes the card Enhanced Surveillance. And, well, literally that card is what it says, right? It is Enhanced Surveillance. Every time you surveil, you get to look at 2 additional cards. So in Spike's stream, we've seen him play with cards like Counterbalance. We've seen him play with cards like Dragon's Rage Channel, like you see on the screen here, but we're combining it with one of Murders of Karlov Manor's new cards, which is the Surveil lands, the land-typed surveillance that you can fetch for. And so imagine if you have an Enhanced Surveillance and you go end step fetch for my land that comes into play tap. Suddenly you're looking at 3 cards, which is an incredible amount of selection. Now, what's also great about this is, I mean, I'm going to rant about this for a while because, we're just in the starting turns here, but this works very well in a format where you have higher power cards. You know what's banned in Modern but not in Timeless? Treasure Cruise. So imagine, you're using your Dragon's Rage channelers, you're using, like cards like Consider and like whatever cantrips there might be. Okay, and then there's also this Mimi card, Thoughtbound Phantasm.
I have to say, like, there's actually, I'm looking at the different ways to win and all the obviously it's a Spike deck. There's going to be lots of synergies going on, and one of them is this card here that he's just played, Thoughtbound Phantoms, which is just a 2/2 for 1 with Defender. But whenever you surveil, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. And then when it has 3 or more counters on it, it loses Defender. So we can start turning that thing sideways. And if we've got a gazillion ways to surveil, which let's be honest, he does, it's going to grow really, really big. So that's plan 1. That's the beatdown plan. Now there's a second option. What if we just mill ourselves out and then we cast Faster's Oracle for a backup way to win? Because we've surveyed all of our cards into our graveyard, redrawn more cards with Treasure Cruises, etc. This is pretty sick. This is cool. I like this. Like, it's not enough to sway me to be a blue-white mage.
Oh, I'm in love, by the way. You already know that I'm going to be registering this deck and playing it out, right? The saddest day of my life when it comes to Magic is when Sensei's Divining Top got banned. The second saddest day was when Underworld Reach got banned, both in Legacy, by the way. So seeing Spike play this deck with all these high power cards, it's got me excited. I mean, like, we're already on turn 3 and using the power of like the Enhanced Surveillance in this deck with the, Dragon's Rage Channeler and the other stuff. You had a 3/3, you had the 4/4, and soon enough, I'm pretty sure we're actually going to see Thoughtbound Phantasm punch in for 5 here. Now, looking at the opposing hand here, I got bad news for Spike, though.
Yeah, we're going to see this August Bowmaster come down. Most played card in Creator Clash 1, probably the most played card in Timeless, at least in up to when the new set was released. And it is going to try and get this Dragon Rage Channel off the battlefield. Only 1 card type in graveyard currently being Creature. He's an Unholy Heat on top. Does he want to keep this? Bear in mind, it is open deck list. Knows it's a Yawgmoth deck. Knows that Yawgmoth is a combo deck and does need creatures on the battlefield for that to happen. So keeping the removal around isn't going to be too bad to keep drawing more of these. But fortunately, one of our Surveil engines is going to take the hit. With Dragon Rage Channel going to go to the bin. Do you get an extra counter? Now we've got a 6/6 that we can start turning sideways.
That's so insane, right?
Pretty cool.
A 1 mana 6/6 that literally rewards you for just playing with cards like Treasure Cruise and Brainstorm and Counterspell. Like, don't pan to me, but I'm close to. I'm just like salivating right now. This is actually so cool. This is like you rarely get to see like really cool tempo decks. Usually they're just like littered with cards like Delver of Secrets and Days, but this is. I mean, obviously Spike is going to come up with something great, right?
I love that. Just like what happened there. Like, okay, no blocks, cool. I'm going to fetch a Surveil land, get an extra +1/+1 counter, get another point of damage in. That's that's really cool. I really like that from Spike. But as I said, wouldn't expect anything less from one of the best, if not the best deck brewer of our generation. End of turn Vader Summer Cycle. That's going to show that Reed needs cards and needs them now. That card is Yawgmoth. Well, get one, you get two. Two Yawgmoths. Very, very good when there's creatures on the battlefield. Not so good when you've only got a only little 1/1 Orca token, which probably isn't going to stay around much longer. No, no, Holy Heat in hand for Fire and Spike.
Yeah, I mean, this is looking really good here for Spike, and the thing about Yawgmoth too is that it's a deck that really does benefit from critical mass of creatures in play. And guess what? We don't have right now on the battlefield. That's right, we have one creature. So the card Yawgmoth Ran Physician actually not so good when you don't have many cards to sacrifice to it. And what's really really interesting here too, I love seeing this metagame evolution here where originally these grixis or blue red x decks, they seemed a bit fair. Like, yes, you do have access to Luris, which is one of the silliest cards of all time, but Timeless is just a really powerful format. There's a lot of stuff going on there. And in the first iteration, in the first Creator Clash, we saw, Yawgmoth was doing some crazy stuff, but this is a new contender, a new build that allows a kind of creature deck like this to sort of have aim against the value town that is, Golgari Yawgmoth. In modern, we'll see cards like Murktide Regent. Funny enough, Thoughtbound Phantasm seems like a pseudo replacement for that card. And maybe by the end of the stream, I'm actually just going to say that this card is really good.
Right now, but I'm looking at the deck list if I'm reading, and we've got Yawgmoth combo. Right? That is part of this deck. Undying Creature, Young Wolf, plus Yawgmoth, plus Blood Artist, infinite draining your opponent. We've got all the extra ways to get there. We've got the Orcish Bowmasters, we've got the Mana Dorks, we've got one Scavenging Ooze in the main. I don't think it's legal for Reed to register a deck without Scavenging Ooze since about 2014. Also has Agatha's Soul Cauldron. We know that's had a huge impact in modern. Got one copy of that as well. But 4 Natural Orders, one of the big, powerful cards in the Timeless format. Using that to turn all those little dorky creatures I just spoke about into huge ones with a Crit Hoof Behemoth. But that's not going to be good enough, as Spike is going to take down game number 1 with just that dorky little Phantom 1-drop. But it wasn't so dorky by the time that game. Yeah,
Okay,
again.
Spike, if you're watching this right now, I need your help. What do you sideboard in and out of this matchup? I mean, I'll probably just like watch you talk about it, but the Stern Scoldings look pretty good. Honestly, beyond that, what else did we do? Do we have okay, hold up.
The Scoldings are
Needle,
famously
that's what it was.
very, very good against Yawgmoth because it hits every Yawgmoth card in Yawgmoth in the modern deck. Not exactly every card in the Timeless one, but everything but 2. So yeah, I imagine that they might be coming in. Looks like we got Spike in the chat. He's literally telling you how he would be sideboarding. So no spoilers, Spike. No spoilers, but
Well,
appreciate you here and taking part.
he's saying that he's cut the breach combo. Okay, that makes sense. I guess in this matchup, you do want to lean into a little bit more of the control archetype when you think about like standing back, right? Like the age-old question of who is the beatdown. Well, it certainly is the Yawgmoth combo, right? And so the Yawgmoth deck with just all the mid-range creatures that you could possibly play and more. Also like the backdoor lethal combo of Blood Artist and whatnot. I guess we don't have. Oh no, we do. Okay, we're boarding out the Blood Artist. Whoa, Reed. Okay, wait a minute.
Oh, we're boarding it. It looks like we're boarding out the Natural Order combo as well. Doesn't think Natural Order is going to
Oh,
resolve. So
I love this so much because
targets the attracts.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was just about to say, Spike is going to lean harder into the control role to sort of remove that critical mass that Reed is trying to build up. And in doing so, that makes cards like Natural Order bad. And so it's insane to see, Spike is coming in with obviously, like, this is how you're going to approach the matchup. And Reed is like, okay, I understand that. And hey, I don't know if you noticed this, but I've got Hall of Fame written on my shirt right now. I see you and I one up you, and I'm going to cut the elements that are generally, bad against a deck that tries to lean harder into the control role here. So
I've got a question for you.
But I'm going to ask you a question here. We read. Sorry, Will. Do you think Reed is going to be able to take this next game, or are you thinking that Spike is the one who's ahead?
I feel like Fortsies is going to do a lot of work in this match.
You think so? All right.
And,
Well,
and potentially Ashiok, as you can see a little bit holder there. I don't think Ashiok's the do or undo, but if we can hit something key to get, kind of buy ourselves a bit of time, maybe there's a bit of fetching going on. I was going to have a question for you, just to,
mhm.
to test you. What to Cease and just about looking it up?
Season desist. Oh, this was my preview card for Murders of Karlov Matters. Wait, was
Oh,
this like a setup? Did you actually?
that's convenient.
Yeah. So season desist basically is a 2 mana piece of graveyard interaction that allows you like exile cards from the graveyard and you get to draw a card. Desist says 6 mana destroy like all artifacts and enchantments, which I don't think is going to have much text here. But the idea here is probably that you get to temper surveil a little bit while also cycling. It's not the kind of card that I'm particularly enthused about in this matchup. You can see it's in the opening hand as well. But if Reed says that he wants to bring it in, it is correct to bring it in. It's just like one of those things, you know?
Starting off with probably the best turn one play that Reed can besides Fortsy is this delayed halfling, but that is going to get unholy heat. Get that off the battlefield. Stop the little bit of ramp there, plus the uncountableness. We do see a Skun scolding in hand, but now being tapped out, is Reed going to get the sign here? Is he going to just directly just straight play Orcish Bowmaster now while Spike is tapped out, or is it? Of course he is. Of course he is. He knows what's in the Spike's deck. He knows how to play around it and plays around it beautifully. Now, Spike Dash there with counter spell up plus skirts there with scoring. Got a Swords to Plowshare and a Consider. Still got a couple of options to play this turn, or on the end of Reed's turn, shall I say, before he untaps. And about this, how do you want to see? What, do we like taking an extra 2 points of damage here, or are we just going to get Survey land? Like, we're happy to take the 2. Orcish Bowmaster off the battlefield, so it's leave to Consider. So there's little telltale things you can tell about playing on arena, right? When if your opponent's got a response, there'll be a slight little pause. If there isn't a response, then yeah, it skips all the way through. You see like that in the old high level tournaments. On a lot of players just full controlling all the way through to try not to get across. I'm guessing it didn't go too well, Mr. Young Dingo.
Hey, Dingo, what's up? What's up? Um, yeah, Dingo, you brought. I believe Dingo brought show and tell as well into this event. What's notable is when we were showing the metagame graphic, I didn't actually divide things out a little bit into the most like nuanced forms possible. But Dingo, I believe, brought Sneak and Show as opposed to the show and tell Omnitel versions. So that
Oh, we got a stack. We got a stack. So
okay, okay, okay.
Glide half instead of schooling, Veil of Summer into Counterspell, and Spike actually comes out on top of that. Yeah. So I feel like we've learned something here, Dingo. And this is a shout out to everybody watching as well. Like, if you want to win a Magic, you need to prepare at Magic. You can't just turn up and be Reduke in every tournament. It's hard to do that. As we see Epiphany Needle.
And sorry, the person who has already called dibs on I'm putting few reps in, but I learned the format fast. That's misplaced ginger. So can't have 2 gingers, or can we? I don't know. Okay. Anyways, Treasure Cruise has now resolved, and Spike's hand looks incredible. I mean, we've got Underworld Breach with a pretty stacked graveyard. Consider Thoughtbound Phantasm ×2. We saw what Thoughtbound Phantasm did last game, and I'm kind of looking for the rinse and repeat here.
Oh yeah, just has to be a pass from Reed. No playable cards in hand. Can't even cord for 1 because doesn't have a green creature or the 3rd green mana needed for it. Can't get a Yawgmoth down. Obviously, that's 4 mana. So just having to pass it back, and now seeing Epiphany to come down, naming the card which he has 2 of in his hand. This is rough. Well, there's the 4th land. A little too late. Can we cord for 2 for any? Get that. If we've got the Haywire Might left in the deck, we could try and cord for that and hope it survives. Things we can cord for 2, another Orc Bowmaster.
This is looking pretty grim here because I mean, Mike does
Very
have that
grim.
copy of Counterspell. So we need multiple layers of action. Reed is basically subject to the top of his deck. Now, keep in mind also, right? In this matchup, Reed in this game too, Reed did take a mulligan down to 6. That does not help against the deck that is trying to already prevent you from assembling critical mass, right? Going down on resources. 1+1 does not equal 2 when you approach it that way. So gonna be tricky here. Yeah, and it instantly snaps off the counter spell, spike with the knowledge, the understanding, and to get the value of the Darcy just surveilling into the graveyard.
I feel like I might have done this before the Dragon Rage trying to come down because that was my plan all along. I've just basically given an extra surveil trigger where I didn't need to, but those surveil triggers aren't. They're even more backbreaking as they bring +1/+1 counters to the phantoms. Here comes Yawgmoth, but is 2-4 with pro humans. As now Underworld Breach comes
Okay,
down.
this is so sick. Oh my gosh.
Going well. This is going well. Here comes Consider. We're going to charge some our graveyard. We're going to surveil one, get a couple of triggers. Graveyard. Or now we're going to counters. Another Consider on top. We're going to like to draw that one. More triggers. Oh, we can just attack if there's no blocks. We've got probably got lethal. In fact, we do have lethal if there's no blocks. Can we afford to block here from Reed's side? I think he's doing the math. Card was left on top for Aspiring Spike, so it's got to be good. I think that's no blocks. We could just consider in response there, right? That would have been the extra 2 counters.
Oh, good point. Maybe Spike is playing around a removal spell. No, but he was tapped out.
Tapped out. It's fully tapped out.
Okay. He's finessing. My favorite streamer, he knows how to put on a show.
Yeah, exactly. He's streaming at the end of the day. Remember, all of our players today are streaming on their own channels. You can see the outcome on both sides, what's going through both players' minds. You can get multiple streams up at once on Twitch, and shout out to all the players for doing that. We really appreciate it. Do all this amazing content at home. Remember, they are battling out for their share of $1,000, and you can as well. Next weekend, we have an open that is open to every single person out there in the MTG universe. If you want to play it, all you need to do is register !1K in the chat to get all the information for that. As Spike is just making these phantoms bigger and bigger, we're turning everything sideways. Fatal push. How are we going to go about this? We can go block, fatal push, but that's going to leave us with no board and basically nothing in. And he is going to go double block. Fatal push on the Dragon's channel. Are we going to consider in response trying to find a counter spell?
Bet we are.
Graveyard. Triggers. Surveil again. Island going to graveyard. Is this card going to be a counter spell? Oh my god, it's counter spell! Counter spell off the top. Doesn't really care about it. It's like, sure, I've got 2 lethal threats on the battlefield. Anything you cast is not going to resolve, Reed. That's huge. That's so sick. So sick.
All right, that's what I'm talking about. I mean, hey, this is great, right? You love to see this caliber of gameplay here, and I really do think Spike is onto something here. This Stopbound Phantasm card, man. I don't know. Like, it seems like when you look at it, that it is just like that is fake, right? Like a straight to 8th place, like do not pass go, collect $200. But look at those game states, right? Where it was a 1 mana 11/11. That is, and every time you surveil, you're also just like, not only are you generating select value, but the ways that you're triggering your surveil, it's through cards that replace themselves, right? Like Dragon's Rage Channeler is already the body. Consider just draws another card here. The surveil lands come into play tap. They give you that kind of value. This is,
dude. I'm not lying when I say that we're making a meta. We have genuinely got 16 players building the meta game, which is timeless. Spike has turned up with this deck. He's like, oh, you're just putting these really cool lands. I'm going to use it to my advantage here. I'm getting told in my ear that we've got another backup match ready to go. Get down to that. It is going to be Solaris versus, again, our Pro Tour champion, Seth Manfield. So we know Seth is on Sneaking Show. Well, we're against Jun. Let's go.
Solaris is actually on, I believe it's Domain Zoo, which
round 1
is actually... Yeah, so that's actually interesting. And this is something that we want to talk about, right? So today, what our goal is to highlight the power of show and tell, whether it is a flop or if it's just something that we all need to be terribly afraid of. And I'm thinking in the back of my mind, Will, that we need to talk about what are ways to sort of beat this deck, right? So instantly, I'm gonna tell you, Solaris's approach is, well, okay, you have to get to turn 3, and then you have to cast the card. You also probably need to, put together the combo, so that might take like an extra turn to draw all your cards. I'm just going to kill you before that happens. We've seen a lot of people bring this strategy, like Winota, and now we have Domain Zoo. The cool thing about Domain Zoo is there are two cards that I actually really like in this deck that IMO are pretty good against show and tell. When you're applying vast amounts of pressure, you always want counter spells. And 4 main deck copies of Stubborn Denial, great for that. The other card that I'm a huge fan of is our modern best friend, Leyline Binding. So this is something you can put into play off of show and tell that will either get rid of the omniscience that your opponent puts into play or just remove the Atraxa. And oftentimes you'll have a board state where you can just then kill them on the crackback. So when we're looking for strategies to defeat show and tell, you want to find these kind of interactive cards, and Solaris has put his eyes on that.
Yeah, I think it's like it'd be really interesting to see if that sort of comes up the whole show and tell into omniscient. You put something into play that's got a trigger. That is like your one window to basically try and resolve something to destroy the omniscience before your opponent can really abuse it. That happens in Legacy quite a lot, as you know. But I think what the key bit is here in this matchup right now is that Seth is on the play, which means we can't deploy our 2-drop to then hold up the Stubborn Denial next time. We have to rely on the Stubborn Denial now. But Seth playing smart has 2 Duresses in his deck. Is going to fire that one off. He's going to have a little look. He's going to see the Stubborn Denial, and it is going to get taken. So knowing the coast is clear, basically, Boris has to rip another Summon Denial off the top of his deck and hope that Seth doesn't have multiple land drops in a row. One thing we do know is Seth is missing his 3rd land drop currently, but does have this Brainstorm, but he's fully aware now that there's an Orcish Bowmaster on the other side and might be waiting for this bit here. Now we can fire off the Brainstorm while the fetch is on the stack so the Orcish Bowmaster cannot be deployed. Try and get set up for next turn for our 3rd land drop into a show and tell. And yeah, that's how what Seth is going to go. It does find the 3rd land, but unfortunately it's a Surveil land. Kind of very top heavy, I would say, with 2 Atraxas and the Gristlebrand. Double show and tells in hand. That might mean that we can fire off the first one into some sort of cat magic, knowing that the turn after we'll be able to resolve the second one. Especially with no pressure on the battlefield, and we know that there's no reach hands currently.
Right. I am now nervous, right? I guess this is something to think about too when it comes to building your combo deck, which is, obviously the metagame is going to try to sort of push you out by playing cards like we mentioned before, like Leyline Binding and like Stern Scolding. So naturally, as the combo deck, it is your job to find a way to sort of ease yourself back in, right? And we can see here already with that the turn 2 duress that Seth is building his deck to sort of hate the hate out, if that makes sense. And maybe this is where we have to draw the line, right? Like a great analogy on whether or not a deck like Show and Tell is too good for the format. I think of something like Underworld Breach, right? Which is how many different pieces of hate can you beat? Now, back in the day, like Legacy, I mean, Underworld Breach lasted for about a month, right? Like it joined and it got banned almost instantly. And that's because when you were playing that deck, you were able to generate mana out of nowhere with like Lotus Petals and Lion's Eye Diamonds, but also B, you could just play through all of the hate. 3, 4, 5 commonly pieces played to hit, you could still get just like power through that. Now let's see if Show and Tell is also able to do that. We see Orcish Bowmasters now in play. We saw the Stubborn Denial taken care of. Oh, that's a new card. Breakout.
Breakout. I think that's the one I was talking about, right? Company esque.
Yes, yeah, you're correct. You're exactly right.
Oh,
Red and a green. Yeah.
Basically, value 2 or less, where collected company is 3 or less onto the battlefield, but we're just going to follow up with a Kavu, get some combat damage in. No blue mana held up. That means that the coast is clear for Seth Manfield. He knows what's that whatever he plays here going to get on the battlefield. Now, the question is, do you go Atraxa or do you go Gristlebrand? And looks like we're going to be going Atraxa. I like Atraxa here.
Yeah, that's so crazy. I was gonna say, like, I mean, it's Gristlebrand. Like, it's come on, but
All right, Boomer.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking too. But I mean, like, Atraxa like allows you to generate advantage while also retaining that high life total. So even if there is something like a top deck leyline binding, you still get some resources out of this exchange. One of which is, I mean, also you've also got the backup show and tell. So maybe there's no problem here. Now, I guess if
Chat's making us feel stupid, but yeah, it makes sense not playing Gristlebrand in the face of a Bowmaster. Does seem pretty rough using the draw 7 there.
I don't understand. I don't follow. What do you mean?
So, yeah, I,
Okay.
I just saw your face as it went from what are you talking about? That doesn't make sense. Oh, I've got it. There you go. Yeah.
Light bulb.
Losing 7
Ding.
life, then losing another 7 life and making an 8-8. Yeah, it's pretty rough. You take 14 damage to that, my friend.
Oh my goodness. Okay. All right. You can see on the bottom here, break out a new card from Murders at Karlarv Manor. Red and a green, so Gruel for a sorcery. That is basically Baby Coco, right? Look at the top 6 cards, put a creature from among them into play that is mana value 2 or less. And if you didn't put the card into the battlefield this way, you can put it into your hand and then put the bottom cards. This is a card that is really interesting. I personally do not know if it's good enough. There's been a lot of back and forth. I feel like in this matchup, in this deck, I really would want to put. Well, I guess you're putting it into play, so maybe it is fine. You get to select between something like a territorial Kavu, or if you need some other stuff, you get options and selections. I'm still reeling from that deck building decision that we saw earlier, which is like the 4 main deck copies of Lavinia. I feel like this deck could probably just slot them in so nicely, right?
Yeah, yeah. There's nothing stopping you got the mana to cast it. Some of them are off the top. Obviously, a turn late for here. How do we move forward? It's really hard to when you're in the aggro deck to get damage across in the face of a 7/7 flying lifelink death touch. Phyrexian General, which is Atraxa. When I have a little think for his deck, what could I hit in the top 6 cards? Are any of them good? The awkward thing as well is our mana. Steam Vents is the only source of blue and red. So maybe we just deploy the Brawler, hold up Stun Denial for something. I don't know. I think the damage might be done. We do need to hit a Leyland's Binding. That is the only card in our deck that can get this Atraxa off the battlefield. Other than that, we need to start 2-for-1ing ourselves with Lightning Bolts and Tribal Flames. But we do need 2 sources of red mana for that. We currently don't have it. So what has got to happen? And our life total is only 14. That's 2 hits from Atraxa.
Mm-hmm. Me. Sorry, this is Maine. My bad. What's also interesting is that there's a copy of Fae of Wishes here in Seth Manfield's hand, and I feel like that could. I believe there are a couple copies of like Stifle and Counterspell in the sideboard here for Seth, which are cards you should definitely be looking to pick up here off of the Fae of Wishes. The problem, with the breeding pool too. Yeah, you go Fae of Wishes, you put Leyline, you put the Stifle into your hand, and then when Leyline Binding comes into play, you can just stifle the ETB trigger, and that should lock up game. Now, maybe Seth is looking for a more deterministic, holistic, like encapsulating way to close the game out, but I don't know. I am. Maybe it also just like doesn't matter, right? Like ham sandwich kind of deal. You're in such a good position
Yeah.
right now.
I'm kind of thinking like it doesn't matter too much. That with the Atraxa connecting, yeah, the fact that we're just shocking that in as well is really telling here. Here comes Assemble the Team, as you spoke about. We get to look at the top third of our library, round it up, throw a card and put it into our hand. What card is it going to be looking for new? I'm having a little look myself. What would be good? A counter spell? Wouldn't mind
I
a
mean,
counter
there's a
spell
main
here.
deck
That'd be
copy of
right.
Stifle, Duress. Yeah, Counterspell is another good one too. Yeah.
Well, Omniscience that offers show and tell. That
Okay,
also is pretty good.
that's pretty good too. Yes, I agree. Now, I guess the good and or bad news is that this is going to get countered by the stubborn denial.
Okay, and there's a chance. NT is another hit, another look.
Okay. All right. I
Okay,
am
I'm here
invoking
for it.
my one time on the stream here today for Solaris. Let's see it happen, NT. You get, wait, so just so I understand this, you get 4 separate triggers. Is that correct?
I don't know. Why would it be 4? You get to discard, get the top card. That's 1 trigger, right? That's what I'm seeing. Oh no, because we got the Kavu. Yes. So you've got 3. You can look at the top 2 cards of our library now, I think. And one of them needs to be a Leyline's Binding.
Okay.
How are we gonna stack this?
Okay.
Go, let's go. Come on. Time. Don't think it matters which order they go in. Either way, it's happening. Oh, no, no,
I like.
it does have to go this way because otherwise you don't have a card in hand to discard. Okay, this is the right way.
Oh, okay.
Planes, don't want
Okay.
that. Leyland's Binding! Let's go! Let's go!
No. Oh my God.
Mountain, island, swamp, forest,
Our
plains,
powers
Leyland's
combined.
Binding!
That's so sick.
How much damage is this? This isn't lethal, right? This is 13.
117.
13. No.
God.
This is sick. This is sick. Let's go. Let's go. Leyland's Binding. Take out your 7/7 blocker.
You know what? This win. All right. If Solaris takes this one, I'm gonna take a little bit of credit. I used my one time on this. All right. I used my one time on it. Oh, that's so sick. So, okay. Wait a minute. So,
Play to your out. Play to your out.
Will, I have bad news.
Go for it.
Is this enough? Wait, no, we still need a show and tell. We still need the show and tell. Okay. All right. So Seth is basically dead here. He did draw maybe the second best card in his deck. Well, third best card in his deck, which is Assemble the Team. This again is an arena exclusive card that lets you search not your entire deck, but the top third of your deck. So interestingly enough, it does scale the longer the game goes, because you look at fewer cards. But I think you're forced to play this. Do you have an out?
Oh yeah, no, we do this. We find another show and tell. We show and tell into Omniscience. We
He's already
wishes.
gone. There's 2 show and tell, so there's no way he's going to find a third one.
What do you know, my friend? What do you know? Easy, gamer.
No.
Well, it still isn't it that he's still so he's gonna use the Fey Wishes, go to his sideboard. He can then play Approach the Second Sun, get gain 7 life, play the Gristlebrand, draw 7 cards, take 7 damage, play the Second Suns again, win the game.
That is
This is broken.
dirty. Okay, so I 911. I'd like to report a murder.
We did everything. We used our one time as well, and it still wasn't enough. My word.
I tried. I really did try my best here. And so let's be clear, right? Seth Manfield, in contention for literal best player in all of Magic with that second Pro Tour win locked up. He is now in the conversation for greatest player of literal all time. The audacity between you and me to think that, Seth just wouldn't have it, right? My bad. Seth, I'm sorry if you watch this later on. Oops.
So Seth can go Fey Wishes here, right? And goes and gets these Approach the Second Sun, which gains 7 life, which is the key bit, and then goes 7 cards deep, and then goes into Gristlebrand. Gristlebrand draws 7, takes 7, drops back down to 4, but then can play the Approach the Second Sun again and wins the game that way. But he's looking at shared summonings here. Okay. Search your card for up to 2 creatures, different names, reveal them, put them into your hand. So, look. Traxxas. Okay. Omniscience. Don't care about that too much. Brainstorm, not great in the face of.
Oh, there's a Demonic Tutor just casually in the back there. That one seems pretty good.
I'm not sure. I feel like I saw a winning line, and I'm sure this is probably another winning line somehow, but I'm entirely what it is about drawing cards. Are we just putting a Gristlebrand on the backfield and the tracks and hoping it's enough?
Can I also just be very honest with you? Like, if we are at the part of the game where it's just like, hey, I'm closing my eyes and I'm winning because I could win with a literal ham sandwich if I needed to, that is also pretty demonstrable of like the power, the sheer power of this deck, right? Like I'm just gonna go back to that graphic that I put together, which is like, what do the players think about the balance level of a card like Show and Tell? And it was straight down the middle, right? 50-50. Half the people said, no, it's balanced. Half the people said, what is like wrong? This card is absurd and it should not be in the format. And honestly, here's what I will also say is most of the players who said, wait, Seth's not going to lose here, right? Most of the players who said that the card is broken ended up just registering it in today's tournament, which makes sense. Yeah, and you can see on the screen there, right? Seth is one of those people who said this card is not balanced. Hence, I will register it and I will collect my free win. I will collect my prize money. Thank you very much. And gosh, this is actually kind of nuts that he's just putting his money where his mouth is. I mean, he's Seth Manfield. I cannot sing praises that are, you know, good enough.
Hold on, it's just no, yes. So I didn't see the so yeah.
7+7, my guy. Yeah, I forgot. Dude, see, look, it's not just me. It's not just the light bulb.
There's a reason I'm a caster and not a player at Seth Manfield's level. Fun fact: Seth Manfield gave me my first ever defeat at a Pro Tour. Absolutely trounced me in
You
round
played on the
3.
Pro Tour?
Oh, and the one time, and Seth destroyed me. This is back when Seth was literally he just won his second world championships and absolutely destroyed me with a top deck in the draft in round 3. I was like, oh my god, I've got a 3-0 my first pod. Oh my god, it's looking really good. I had this huge creature with loads of stuff strapped to it, and Seth just ripped a removal spell, did a little shuffle, and went, nah. I was like, oh, okay, thank you.
Well, here's the problem, right? Now for Seth, or I guess more for Solaris, is there's 14 points of life linking power in play, and quite frankly, territorial Kavu not exactly what you're looking for here. I mean, come on, dude. Like, so Solaris, my heart's out to him right now. He had the stubborn denial. He had the ley line binding, and despite that, he's still looking down on a board of Atraxa Grand Unifier and Gristlebrand. Like maybe we have a problem here, but I'm going to hold out hope here. I'm hoping that Lavinia that we saw earlier is one of the key pieces that is going to make this deck just absolutely bonkers against Show and Tell. Right? If you're able to shut down the Omniscience lines, maybe you have something there. But only one person really brought that metagame development.
Question for you in chat: what would you want printed in Timeless to deal with this?
And how are you all coping right now, too? I want to know. What are your ways to beat Show and Tell right now?
Yeah, well, it's looking pretty good in the. Oh, okay, another ley lines buying off the top. Not good enough because it's not. We haven't got some Traxors. Not Traxor. The one I'm thinking of giving it Traxors. Double trigger. Steel Dread. No. What's the white one that gives double triggers? I forgot the name of it. Praxin. Alice Norton. Thank you, chat.
Oh, okay.
We had an Alice Norton get double triggers, but we didn't have it. But yeah, that was only game 1.
My heart.
So much happened in that. That was crazy.
Yeesh. Okay. Well, let's take a look at the sideboard here because I want to know what Solaris is doing to try to sort of take down the menace here. And in the sideboard, we see the Strict Proctors, Terra Sunder, Miscast, Veil of Summer, Broiling Vortex. All right, we've got a lot of cards to bring in here. I'm going to quickly remind myself the Oracle text on Strict Proctor. So that is 1 and a white for a Spirit Cleric that says it's got flying, it's a 1/3, and if a permanent entering the battlefield, oh, this is what you were talking about, right?
No, one of them. It's one that works really well with like Lotus Field.
I see.
Decide not to play the trigger, and then you get to ramp out. Obviously, probably seen Spike play it quite a lot in.
So this is basically his answer to Show and Tell Atraxa, right? Like you put Strict Proctor into play, you can see it on the screen right now in the bottom right, and it will counter the ability of Atraxa that gets put into play off of Show and Tell unless the opponent plays 2 mana. Now, why is this actually good? Great question. Generally speaking, the reason that Show and Tell is really good is because it's a deck that is predicated on speed of hammer, like a hammer force power. And if on turn 3 they tap out to play their card, you have Strict Proctor. You can actually, this is really interesting. Strict Proctor probably also already needs to be in play in order for it to counter the ability of Atraxa. So I don't think you can put it into play off of the Show and Tell and also counter the ability of Atraxa. Is that correct, chat?
I'm gonna find out like everybody else if that actually comes up. It's definitely feels like an uphill battle. It feels like we might have brought a gun to a knife fight. We really need to get. Bear in mind, we didn't have any turn 1 or turn 2 plays. We couldn't do our turn 2 play. We were on the draw. That might have been a completely different game if we were on the play.
That is telling me that it should work. Proctor should work against this matchup. But regardless, we're hearing from Solaris that he did not actually board in the Strict Proctors. There's still Roiling Vortex, which is very good against Omniscience, saying, hey, you want to spend 0 mana for your spells? All right, fine, take 5. And then also, I believe Miscast, which is another card that I think Counter target instant or sorcery spell unless its controller pays 3. So an additional copy of functionally the stubborn denial sort of thing, which we already have 4 main deck copies of. So reasonably, so long as we're not like, going too, or we're not reducing the density of our deck by too much, we'll have a fast clock and additional interaction. Also, really cool that you could just put Roiling Vortex into play off of the opposing short.
Turn one play. I feel like I might mulligan quite aggressively to try and hit like a Ragavan or something. Like I really need that super early interaction. Otherwise, I'm going to kind of start falling behind because now we're going to see fort seats again. Might, are we a land drop down? Do we go second? Oh, we got stifled. Okay, right, there you go. I missed the stifle the fetch land bit. Pretty key
I
in.
was
I
all
can
right.
see a video of you, and I can see your face looking as well. And then as soon as I
Every
said
time.
stifle,
Every time, the other day I was playing modern, and recently Patrick Wu, he added a trick bind to the sideboard of his blue white list, and I had the heavenly experience. I was queued up against Living End. They went turn 2 fetch, and I said in response, fetch. And then I did like the Mr. Burns, like you could see me, Will, but like I'm like tapping my fingers together, laughing maniacally, sort of like the world is on fire kind of deal. And I went trick bind your land. Okay, untap Teferi. Good game. And that's how that round went. Stifle is just like a
no, no, no. This is Seth. Come on. We get it. We get it. You won a trophy a couple weeks ago. Like,
why you gotta
come
do him like
on.
that, man? Why you gotta do him like that?
It's in a deck that needs all 5 colors, by the way. You know what I mean? This is the main deck at the end of the day. Just crack it now. Even though there's only, I believe there's only 2
The
stifles in the
fear.
right?
This is the best feeling too, right? Like after you've stifled them once, and you see, and you don't have a copy of Stifle in your hand, but you see them fetch, and you're just like, yeah, you're afraid, aren't you? And but the damage is done. The damage is done.
Yeah, like this is like the gap that Seth needs to like slow down the game to get to turn 3 or 4, so we could cast our show and tell. Ah, this is you love to see it, but you don't have to be on the other end of it. It's pretty harsh when he does. Here, let's play a little bit of a game for us. Just give us some lands off the top, so that's good. Are we going to deploy a threat? We're going to hold up this Orcish Bowmaster. I think we're holding up Orcish Bowmaster. Go by it. Yeah. Have you ever been double stifled? As in
Huh.
your turn 1 and turn 2?
I am gonna send you a screenshot real quick. Of some crazy experience that I had in Legacy the other day. We'll come back to this a little bit later discussing this, but you're gonna just like laugh your butt off. To answer your question, yes, I have fought against my fair share of stifles, and generally the only way that I have ever beaten that is just by staying strapped with copies of Flusterstorm. That's like the only card that's really good against stifle.
Right. So Steph's got an option here. He knows there's no blue mana on the other side. The show and tell is going to resolve. I don't believe there's anything else in the format in uh, black, green, or red colors that can stop this. So now he's thinking, what's the worst thing you can put on the battlefield that I need to play around? And I'm sure he's going through because he could also hold up something like Fatal Push and assemble the teams this turn. I'm not entirely sure how many cards are in the graveyard. Dig through time is highlighted, so potentially we've got enough mana for that as well. Going through like the thoughts, like what is the worst? He's looking at the deck list. I'm sure I'm also looking at the deck list, and realistically, I don't think there's anything I'd be scared of. Potentially a Leyline's Binding, but wait, hey, I've already got my trigger off my Atraxa. Damage is kind of done at that point. Going to be interesting. I was going to speak about more on Stifle, just a bit of inside information. Playing registering Stifles.
All right, Will, the jig is up. We all know that you're just playing Infect tomorrow with like a loss of quick brief like that.
I'm not.
It's come on, anybody who knows Will knows that that's 1+1, right there.
A good shot. It's a good chance that that's happening. I mean, take the wins when I can, but Orcish Bowmaster really does hurt in that one. That's still in the tank here, which luckily there is a clock timer. when it comes to these, and the rope might be coming out shortly. But just I see. Okay. But the reason why he's a Pro Tour champion and I'm not, I haven't got a clue why. But I'm glad we got a little bit of damage on the battlefield. Breakout is going to be cast now before combat, which fatal push is probably going to have a target. But here comes another Orcish Bowmaster. Only option we've got is a 2-drop, so we'll enter the battlefield straight away. That's going to do a point of damage. Going to grow the Orca Mass token.
What's really interesting to me. Okay, so I have to presume. I don't. Maybe an observant Twitch chatter can tell me if they actually have enough cards in the graveyard to sort of sustain the dig through time.
I
don't.
believe we do. Because
You believe we do? Okay.
It's highlighted. So you see, I see that little blue border that's the ring around
Oh.
it. I think this might have been Seth's line was to play fatal push anything that's needed. End of turn, delve, dig through time. Potentially get ourselves a land plus maybe a removal spell. Cast show and tell. Have a removal spell up for anything that's yeah, we're gonna see it here. And don't have blue either, so that means that we don't even have to play around the ley lines binding, at least being hard cast. Not this turn. We find a omniscient. It just feels worse and worse. We could go show and tell into omniscience, into double assemble the team, into an Atraxa, and whatever else. We might be just seeing the end of this game right now. But how do we sequence it? What's the worst that can happen? If we go show and tell and a Leyland's binding happens, then the Leyland's binding can take out the omniscience before we're allowed to cast any more spells. Probably what's going through Seth's mind right now. And looks like he doesn't want to get blown out by that. So he's happy to just look at the top third of his deck. Remember, round it up, hit one of these cards in hand. It's going to be a duress by looks of it. Make sure the coast is clear and set up for next turn. So yeah, here comes the duress. Going to have a little look at 2 lands plus the brawler.
One of those things where you're just like, okay, I didn't get any value out of my duress, but I am certainly happy to see this. And wait a minute, this is like a reverse Thoughtseize bug, right? You draw the instant or sorcery that could have been discarded right after casting the duress.
I don't think there's anything we're worried about here. Like, realistically, I would go Flooded Strand now, shock in the blue source, make Seth play around this. You know, give him options of what's going to happen here. Play my creature. No, do not. Oh, we're just going face. I think I would have played the creature that has 5 power here to then hold up the stump denial and make Seth think about it. Because now Seth knows the coast is clear, and it's probably going to be game.
That's so tricky though, right? Because you had the option, like if you hold up the mana, Seth has to sort of fade the draw step. Now, knowing Seth, knowing the caliber of player he is, I'm pretty sure he'd just say, meh, jam, you have to have it. But that's still something like, you want your opponent to sort of think about. And I'm sure Solaris, realize that like, hey, I've got double Bowmasters in play. Seth is probably going to jam it, so I'm going to play my Tribal Flames now in order to sort of avoid potential issues. Like it's just like I guess now that I think about it, this decision actually has a lot of layers. So I see the justification for playing the Tribal Flames. I am actually behind the decision to play it right there. Like, what, you think Seth is not going to jam there? Like, he's not no choice. So,
Now we're going to go turns, gain 7 life, put it 7 cards down, use assemble the teams, go find it, cast it again, and win the game that way. And our current Pro Tour champion, Seth Manfield, Hall of Famer, world champion, is taking this down and advancing 2-0 here in Timeless. Create a class. It looks good, man. This deck looks good. It looks.
I feel like you're selling it. I feel like you're selling it super short. It did not just look good. This man brought out the body bag. All right. He was not playing games. And like, yes, this is Seth Manfield. Yes, we know, like he's just naturally good, but like, I will also, Will, you and I didn't talk about it at the beginning of the show, but if you had to put show and tell into one of those columns, do you think it's balanced or do you think it's too strong? I think it's too strong. I was of the opinion that it was, reasonably balanced. People will find a way to sort of attack the meta. People will find a way to sort of, fight back. But that was not okay. That was not okay. All right. So I am
do what Seth does, right? You just play dresses and fort seizes, and you take those cards that could do it out of their hand the turn before, and then you slam your show and tell, and then you just win the game, and it goes crazy. It's it, it
I will
it's
say
great.
one thing. I will
Go
say
for it.
one thing too, right? Is that yes, at some point too, maybe there is a line where you say, okay, I finally have a good show and tell matchup. You know, you're playing the 4 Lavinias, you're playing the 4 Stubborn Denials, you're playing the 4 Leyline Bindings. But the problem is if you have to play all of these cards just to have a fighter's chance against, you know, the show and tell deck, that's not a good sign. So keep those in mind. Are we due for our favorite game?
I thought I was setting you up for that when you said, "Will, I've got a word," and I was like, "Oh, what is that word, Anu?" And then you went on a
I
rant
missed
about
it.
timeless. I was like, "Oh, okay, let's try it again." Have you got a word for me, Anu?
Portal.
Let's go. Wordle, ladies and gentlemen. We're gonna have a short break. We'll be right back. See if you can do better this time around.